Okay, what I'd like to start you thinking about today is groups of things. So let's start by thinking about one group of chairs. One group of chairs is 5 chairs. That seems pretty simple. Now we have 2 groups. 2 groups of chairs is 10 chairs. Let me write that down. 2 groups of 5 is 10. Okay? I know that this seems pretty simple to you, but I promise I'm going somewhere with this. Now we have 3 groups of 5, and that's 15 chairs. Okay, now let's think about this array that I have. Here I have 3 groups of 4 coins each. I have 1, 2, 3 groups, and each one has 4 coins. Okay, how would we write this as a multiplication problem? We would write 3 times 4 equals 12. It's important to keep thinking about this array of 3 times 4 equals 12, or any array really, as a multiplication problem. What we're really thinking about is how many groups and how many objects we have in each group. Okay, I want to take that same principle or that same idea that we just thought about and apply it to fractions. Now, instead of thinking about whole numbers where we have groups of a certain amount, we're going to think about parts of 1. So the rectangle that I have here is 1 whole. Okay, so that rectangle equals 1. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to think about 2/3 of 1/4. So remember what we talked about yesterday. We want to think about 1/4 as what we're starting with. So you can see here that I've shaded in 1/4. Now I need to take 2/3 of that. So I'm going to draw in thirds. And now I need to shade in 2 of those thirds. So right down here is where I can show 2/3 of 1/4, because what I have shaded in red was the 1/4, and then I have what I have shaded in blue where it crosses over, that's just 2/3 of that. So actually, let me just show you something. Let's just look at that little 1/4 section. If we just look at the 1/4 section that we had, the 1/4 of 1 whole, which I covered up the other 3/4, we took the 1/4 and we just divided that part into 3 different pieces, and then I shaded in 2. Okay, so this is showing 2/3 of 1/4. Now when we look at the whole here, we can look at how many pieces are there all together. Well, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. When I look at the new fraction that I've made, that's 12. And when I look at what part is actually the 2/3 of the 1/4, where I shaded in both parts, I can see that I have 2 of those parts. So I'm going to put a big X here, and I'm going to put a big X here. So what we have then is 2/3 of 1/4, which is 2/12. Okay, let's review and think about what we've done so far. The first thing that we started with was 3 groups of 5, and that was 15 chairs. Then we went down to 3 rows of 4 coins each, and we had 12 coins altogether. In this last example, we had 2/3 of 1/4, and there we had 2/12. Are you seeing a pattern here? Hopefully you are. 3 groups of 5 equals 15. That's something that looks just like 3 times 5 is 15. 3 rows of 4 coins is 12. That looks to me like 3 times 4 equals 12. And I showed that one in an array. And we know that when we have an array, we're talking about a multiplication. This last one, we had 2/3 of 1/4. Of course, it hopefully is starting to make sense to you that this number is smaller because we're only taking part of a part. So we're taking something that's less than 1 as a part of something that's less than 1. So this one is going to actually be smaller than either of those two. So 2/3 of 1/4 is the same thing as 2/3 times 1/4. And that was 2/12. Now I bet as you look at this, some of you are saying, but Mrs. Piper, this is not in lowest terms. And you're right, but I'm actually going to leave it like that just for a little while so that you see what the pattern is. Okay, I'm going to show you one more model and then I'm going to have you try it on your own. So I want you to think about 3/4 of 1/2. Both of these numbers are smaller than 1. So when we think about what we're going to end up with, taking only 3/4, which is a smaller than 1 piece, of 1/2, which is also a smaller than 1 piece, we should end up with something fairly small. So I'm going to start by drawing the 1/2 first. I'm going to draw it horizontally. So here's half. And here I have 1/2 shaded in. Now from here I'm going to draw 3/4. So going the opposite direction because I want to look at 3/4 of that 1/2. Really all I want to look at is the bottom half here. But I have to draw it all the way through the hole so that I see what size the pieces are. So I'm going to draw in the 4ths. Now I'm going to shade in 3/4. Notice how I'm keeping my drawing nice and neat. Now just this section here, right here, is the 3/4 of 1/2. Because this was the 1/2. And if you look at it, if you look just at that 1/2, you can see that we've divided it into 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're actually only thinking about the 3/4 of that. Okay? So 3/4 of that 1/2 is just the part that's shaded in 2 colors. So 3/4 of 1/2, well, I have to look at how many pieces do we have. Okay? This is where I've been putting the X in. So I'll put an X in the 1, 2, 3. And then we have 3. And I want to look at how many pieces are in the whole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 3/4 of 1/2 is 3/8. So if 3/4 times 1/2 is 3/8, are you beginning to see a pattern here? Are you beginning to see 3 groups of 5 was 15 and 3 groups of 4 was 12 and 2/3 of 1/4 was 2/12 and 3/4 of 1/2 was 3/8. I hope that you're looking across the fractions, and I hope that you're beginning to see a pattern with our fraction multiplication, what the numerator and denominator look like, and then what the answer is. Think about that for a minute. That's all for today. Your quiz question today is just a little bit different. You're going to have to answer with a short answer instead of just quick little number answers. And the question that I have for you is, what pattern do you see when fractions are multiplied? So remember, the 2/3 times 1/4 was equal to 2/12. And 3/4 times 1/2 is equal to 3/8. Study those two examples and see if you can come up with a pattern when fractions are multiplied. Have a wonderful night.